Check. Okay, we're ready to go. Hope everybody's doing well. Nice to see everybody. We'll just start with the agenda really quick, couple things, and then we'll go around the room and see what everybody has. We have nothing new in fifth order, so no new legislation. Sixth order, we just have one piece, the city donating an obsolete and inactive fire engine to Johnson College for use, so that's all good. Seventh order, we have two appointments. And we also have one agreement with Northeastern PA Alliance to provide the city and OECD with underwriting services and support for the loan and grant program. I had inquired with OECD, or Lori had inquired with OECD today. I had noticed when I was going through it, the disclosure forms were provided, but they were not filled out. So Lori was in contact with OECD today, but as of 4:30, I don't believe we received anything yet. Did we, Lori?
No, we did not. And I had a follow-up email. They will work to obtain those disclosures with signatures. I told them, because it was up for final approval tonight and absent signatures, it was likely there could be a possibility that this piece would be tabled, and they understood that.
Okay, so thanks, Lori. I would just ask if someone could make a motion, if you wouldn't mind, to table item 7C until we get the proper forms filled out.
Yeah, when looking at that, do we know how many responses we got to that RFP?
I don't know off the top of I don't know. It wasn't included.
Okay. So I probably with some of that information, maybe some of the responses we got or what the comparables were there with that one.
Yeah, I think OECD, they go through their attorney, they go through the I think it's an RFQ or RFP process, and then they deem whoever is the most responsible bidder. I didn't look at the other ones, but if you want to request that information prior to next week, I'm sure they'll have the disclosure forms before the meeting next week.
Okay. I'll ask Jamie Hailstone for that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
No problem.
All right. So we'll table that. Someone will make a motion to table item 7C. Then there was
excuse me. I'm sorry. Pardon me. Will you be tabling at the top of the meeting or at the piece in seventh order?
I think we could just table after it's read.
So read it and then motion to table. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And the next piece was the authorization for financial assistance through the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act. And then not on the agenda because we tabled it. There was two pieces. The one that we are bringing back tonight is the Willis Towers healthcare legislation. So I know that I think Councilman McAndrew and Schuster talked with Mr. Dealey about questions that you had, and Kyle did as well. So I think we're good to take a final vote tonight on that. The only thing that I would like to leave on the table at this point is this legislation with Center Street. We did receive correspondence from Joe Wexler from the county. Kyle had asked last week that they get in contact with the neighbors there before we pass this through, and that would have been the bank on Wyoming Avenue, and I think the mall they're running it by as well. So they did, according to the correspondence that I read today, they did meet Frank Suma and Joe Wexler from the county, and Mark Dewar met with the representatives from the bank on Wyoming Avenue. They altered the plan a little bit to include marking and signage to alert drivers of the bank entrance and to prevent parking in their lot, and some other things here as well that they included. So the only thing I think we should do, so we'll leave that on the table, and then Kevin, can you just look into, we'll probably have to make an amendment to include this new schematic, this new drawing that they have, and then I don't know what else is going to happen with them all, but hopefully we'll hear back from them on that.
Who sent that around today, Bill?
Lori was in contact with Mr. Wexler, and then he had sent to Lori the drawing, and I just don't know if there has to be any language change in the agreement. I don't think so, but I just want to double check that.
I'll take a look at it. So
Okay.
we'll tee it up for next week.
Yeah, for next week. Okay, so that is the agenda. So does anybody have any questions or concerns about the agenda, what we're voting on tonight, what we're bringing back?
I have a quick one on 7D. So is this a movement from, I just want to be clear, just so we know, so it doesn't come back. Is this movement for the emergency disaster coordinator, is that a movement from union to somewhat management? And is there more money involved? I just didn't
No.
see it or read it anywhere, or I just wanted just have an
No.
understanding before I vote on it.
Yeah, no, the way that I'm reading this is solely to really name Al Lucas as an agent of the city. He's already the emergency management coordinator, but for the city to receive financial assistance through this Stafford Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, this is like something that we have to do. It's a requirement by the I think the federal government. That we went through this once before when we had to when we were applying for funds for the flood back in, I want to say 2018. So this is just a kind of a regulatory common practice.
Okay, I just want to be clear for myself. That's all.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Good question. Anybody else on any of the agenda items? No? Okay. So I just wanted to go over a couple things as well coming up in November. So we do have the caucus on November 10th, which will be our next meeting next Tuesday with Hubert, Rowland, and Grubik. So they're the company that was assisting the city with the stormwater management and looking at maybe a countywide authority and how we would handle stormwater management moving forward. So we're going to meet with them. They're going to give us a presentation and an update on how that is turning out. The other thing I sent out today that I want to go over for a second here is the timeline with the budget. So the budget is by the Home Rule Charter has to be given to council by the administration on November 15th. So I did send it out in an email today. Lori and I kind of mapped out, and I worked with the administration as well to map out what the next few weeks will look like. So what I have so far is, and what I presented to you today, and what I'd like your feedback on is a work session with the administration Thursday, November 12th at 6 p.m. So that'll be on ECTV. It'll be on YouTube. There'll be a legal ad, all that to notify the public. That will be where the mayor and Carl Deely and her administration will present the budget to us and go through the details of the budget. Then on Tuesday, November 17th, that's when it will officially be on our agenda for fifth order. Thursday, November 19th, so that same week, we're going to have another work session at 6 p.m. On ECTV, on YouTube, same thing. And that will be where now we've had enough time to look at the budget, to go through it, and the administration will come back with the mayor told me she'll bring department heads and whoever else and the business administrator, and they'll answer any additional questions. And we'll work through it together. And then November 24th, which is our next meeting after that, which will be Tuesday, that will be the sixth order, so it'll be read a second time. We'll make a motion to table it at that point because the next meeting, December 1st, will have a public hearing, which is required. It has to be done by December 1st. That'll be at 5:45 p.m. and that will be the public's opportunity then, after they've had time to review the budget, to ask any questions, make any comments on it. So we'll take those into consideration, and then we have to pass the budget, or not pass the budget, but we have to consider the budget by no later than December 15th. So we really would have the 8th, Tuesday the 8th and Tuesday the 15th to bring it back. So that's kind of a skeleton outline of what I was thinking in terms of the budget timeline. So does anybody have any comments or questions on that? Is that good to everybody?
Bill, I'm sorry if I missed this. When would, I know under the Home Rule Charter, we're required to publish a summary of the budget. Is that, when will we do that?
Yeah, Laura, do you want to speak to that? And you know what, I should have sent out too, and I didn't, and I will after this meeting. Lori had put together a pretty detailed, it's an internal document. It'll be good for everybody to take a look at it. Just the things that our office has to go through in terms of the budget. So Laura, do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, that's pretty well all laid out, Kevin. I'll contact the finance manager because she'll provide directly from the budget the actual summary. We'll advertise that in conjunction with the public hearing notice. It's a pretty rigid procedural schedule that we follow every year. It's just the dates change a little bit. But that ad will go in, and then a second ad for the public hearing, and it's all mapped out. And like Bill said, I'll share that with you if you'd like to review it, just to make sure I'm not missing anything.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
It's my first budget. So, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that timeline? I mean, it's subject to change if anybody has any issues with it. There's not a lot of room to play with in November because of the holidays and everything. So Thursdays seem to be, based on what I know from all of your schedules, seem to be the best kind of day to fit that in, those two in. So, okay. But if anybody has any comments, just let me know. The other thing I want to mention too, so when the mayor and the administration come on the 12th and they present the budget to us, and then they're coming back on the 19th, you know, this isn't a requirement, but it always seems to work better if you, after you review the budget, if you do have specific questions prior to them coming back on the 19th, if you can, you know, put those questions in writing and get them to the administration so that they can come prepared with the answers, that always seems to work better. Now, obviously, you know, people think of a question on the fly and that doesn't always work out, but if there's anything that sticks out to you that you can get to them or get to Lori to facilitate that, that'll work. Okay. All right, that's that. Real quick, and then I'll be done. I'll go around the room. The overtime report from the controller is in third order today. And I did talk to the controller, and the mayor had called me late this afternoon about it. There may be a discrepancy there. They're trying to work it out between the controller and the administration in terms of the overall overtime figure that was used in this report, and then that's in the budget. So there may be a slight discrepancy there. So they're working that out. Obviously, when you look at this, I am concerned about us being over budget, fire, police, and those are the two major ones. So I did speak to the mayor about that. They also have concerns about it. So they're looking at ways to kind of rein that in. And then I did have a question. It seems like we incurred overtime costs in the law department, and there was no overtime budgeted for that in 2020. So I'd like to find out why that was. I just caught that when I was looking at the report as well. And then I think we should ask from the administration an explanation as to specific explanation as to why we seem to be over budget. The mayor had explained it was due to some staffing issues, but I think we should get that explanation in writing to the council so that we have it. Okay. The other thing that I'm concerned about as well is the audit. I did speak with Carl Dealey about that. I'll talk more about that in fifth order at the regular meeting. But last year we didn't get the 2018 audit until January 2019. This year it doesn't look like we're going to get it until December, and there are issues there. So I'll talk about that in fifth order. And that's all I have related to the agenda and anything else. Kevin, any updates on the legal side of things?
I spoke with the law department this afternoon, and they're preparing legislation to get down to us early this week. They understand that there's a lot that has to get done between now and start of the next fiscal year. So we should, obviously the agenda is light now, but it'll be picking up. I have my notes from last week. An issue was raised about nonprofits. Do you know? I can't figure out what that was.
Yeah, you know what? I actually there was a question in the public comment about, so I think Councilman Schuster, this was
It was about doing a hub test.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah,
Yes.
so there was a question that was posed by a member of the public, and it was about that. And I did ask Jerry, I forwarded it to Jerry Cross, and he did give an explanation. I'll read that during the regular meeting. But
Okay.
basically, the long and short of it is that in our recovery plan, we have, there is a, it's not a requirement, but I guess it's a, a thing that the city should do. And it's something that I brought up every year to previous administrations, but that would be an analysis of the nonprofits in the city. That was an initiative that was in the recovery plan to perform an analysis. According to Jerry Cross, the coordinator can review the status of exemption, of being exempt from taxation properties. Almost every recovery plan includes initiatives for the city to review the status of these properties on a regular basis. He did say there was a review that was conducted during the first recovery plan of 1992. The coordinator reviewed the status of various properties during the preparation of the 2015 recovery plan. A review was also conducted as part of the Amoroso plan at that same time. The city attempted a review of the properties as part of the 2015 recovery process. He's saying that some properties were identified at that time as subject to review. And he says the disposition of several properties that were part of closed churches were also identified as potential change of use that could lead to a resumption of taxable status. And then he goes on to say that the majority of exempt properties are owned by local governments and educational and medical facilities. The sale of the Scranton Sewer Authority also led to some properties being reclassified as taxable. So he did say that a regular review of the status of properties should be done, but that analysis would be up to the city. So up to the administration. I don't know if that made sense, but we'll put that in third order for next week.
Did anyone have a specific request for me on that issue, though? I had it written in my notes, and I can't remember what it was. Tom, did you?
I'm trying to think of the wording I used, but I was looking to see where we stood legally to test the eligibility of nonprofits. So,
Okay.
I mean, that answer there, I mean, maybe you can look into that. The answer there is saying it's up to the administration is what I took from what Bill just read.
Okay, thanks. And Tom, I sent you a memo on a couple of those issues that you raised regarding the bidding process. So you should have that in your inbox.
All right, thanks.
And I think that's really all for me right now.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Lori, do you have anything?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lori. And we'll go around the room now. Kyle, anything?
No, I'm good.
Mark?
I'm also good.
Okay. Jess?
Nothing here. Thank you.
Okay. And Tom?
No, nothing at this time.
Okay. The one thing I did want to bring up, it was brought up 2 weeks ago, and I'd like to, Lori asked for an update on this. We were told, I brought up an incident that occurred 2 or 3 weeks ago with our police department giving an escort to a political parade through the city. There were some issues there. We were told by the mayor and the police chief of police that there was an internal investigation going on. So I would like to know if there was a result of that investigation. I wanted to know who authorized that, and what, if there was any ramifications, what happened. So Lori, if you can check with the administration on an update. Also, Lori, I would like to know too, I'll bring this up during the regular meeting, the city obviously applied for reimbursement through the county, through the CARES Act, for a significant amount of money for COVID-19 expenditures. So do we know, can you find out when we will know how much we're going to be reimbursed for, like what the timeline on that is? I'd be interested in that meeting. The city obviously applied for reimbursement through the county, through the CARES Act, for sorry, feedback there. The other thing, and I think Dr. Rothchild, you brought this up a couple weeks ago. We still have not received any communications on the questions about the DPW equipment that was donated from Keystone Landfill. I talked to the mayor about it. I think what they told me at that time was that Keystone Landfill, or the administration rather, couldn't find any detailed records on any of the equipment that was donated by the landfill in the last couple of years. But what I had asked for was something official in writing. We haven't received that yet. And that legislation accepting that piece of equipment from the landfill is still on the table. And I know, Dr. Rothschild, that you had brought that up before. Lori, can we resend this request and see what's going on with it? We're coming to the end of the year, and I know that legislation will die on the table if it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by the end of the calendar. Yes.
Okay.
And I think, Bill, was it you that requested you requested the list of what was donated over the past couple of years?
Yeah, and I was told that, and they were honest, that they don't really have any documentation as to what was donated. There's no real great documentation on what was donated over the last 10 years. And I think that they were asking the landfill if they had documentation, but we never received anything official in writing. So.
Bill, we haven't seen the rebid for the recycling contract yet either, have we?
No, we did not.
Okay.
So we should request that as well.
I'll follow up on that.
Okay. We also, this will be in third order next week, but I don't know if anybody caught this. We received a memo from the mayor about a vehicle auction down at the DPW. So the DPW supervisors identified 15 pieces of equipment that they're no longer usable. So they have no usable purpose to the city. In the past, apparently, previous administrations would have just scrapped that equipment, not really extracting the potential payout for the equipment. So this administration decided to sell the equipment at a public auction. So the memo goes through what that process looks like. We received that on October 30th. So that'll be on our agenda for next week in third order, if anybody wants to take a look. Okay, I have some other questions. I'll save them for the regular meeting. Anything else before we wrap up the caucus? Okay, sounds good. All right, we will reconvene here at 6:30 and we'll get the regular meeting underway. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to call this public meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community. Let us also take a moment of silence for all those people in our community and country and world who have passed away from the coronavirus. This pandemic has turned our world upside down, but we must remain hopeful and strong. We continue to pray for the doctors, nurses, researchers, and all medical professionals who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they have protection and peace. Whether we are home or abroad, surrounded by many people suffering from this illness or only a few, let us stick together, endure together, mourn together, and in place of our anxiety, let us have hope and peace. Thank you. Roll call, please, Ms. Carrera.
Mr. Schuster,
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothchild,
Here.
Mr. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Gaughan.
Here, thank you, Ms. Carrera.
I'd like to make a motion to take from the table resolution number 79, 2020.
Second.
On the question? On the question, this piece is being taken from the table and placed in seventh order for a final vote. This is the contract with Willis Towers Watson for consultant benefits broker services for the city, and we received the disclosure statement as requested. All those in favor signify, or is anyone else on the question? I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved. Mrs. Reed, could you please dispense with the reading of the minutes?
Third order, 3A, Lackawanna County Planning Commission Subdivision and Land Development Evaluation Report, reviewed October 20, 2020. 3B, correspondence received from National Development Council dated October 26, 2020, regarding Scranton Parking System Operations Update. 3C, Single Tax Office, City Funds Distributed Comparison Report, 2019-2020, year-to-date October 31, 2020. 3D, correspondence received from City Controller dated October 22, 2020, regarding payroll overtime by department, January to October 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? I just have one comment on 3D regarding the payroll overtime report that was submitted by Controller John Murray. As I mentioned in the caucus, there, I think was in speaking with the mayor and Controller Murray, there may have been a discrepancy in the bottom line number, the total amount of overtime listed in the report. So they're working to correct that. I am personally concerned that we are over budget with police and fire overtime. We budgeted $700,000 overtime for the police department. We are over budget by $62,398.46. That's concerning. Fire is very concerning. We budgeted $325,000 for overtime. We're already at $443,825.63. So we're over budget by $118,825.63. The law department, there was no overtime budgeted for 2020. It's not a large amount, but I still would like to know what, how we, why we had to spend overtime in the law department. $1,161.74. So what I'd like to ask from the administration is in writing an explanation as to why in November we're that much over in the fire department and in the police department. In years past in the police department, there have been a certain amount of dollars that were reimbursable. So that's most likely the case again this year. So usually Chief Graziano would give us a breakdown of the cost to date that were reimbursable, whether a policeman were to cover an event or something like that. But Mrs. Reed, if you could send something to the administration for an answer in writing as to the reasons why we're so over in these categories. Anyone else on the question? Or not on the question, anyone else on the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have a quick one. This Saturday, November 7th, from 4 to 7 p.m., there'll be a pot roast dinner fundraiser hosted by God's Peace at Parker and Main, which is 2506 North Main Avenue. Takeout only, $12 each. Advanced tickets need to be purchased. Tickets are available at the church office, and the Facebook page directs you to a website where you can actually purchase tickets. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one quick one. Just a reminder about the fall leaf program. All leaves must be placed in biodegradable brown paper bags. There's bags available for pickup at the DPW complex on Poplar Street and at Weston Fieldhouse on Providence Road. All collections are from the curb side of streets and avenues. No collections will be in courts or alleys. No loose piles, no plastic bags, no household trash and leaf bags. The following weeks, are the remaining weeks of the program. Next week, the week of November 9th, the week of November 24th, and the week of December 7th.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I have one thing to add. So I know last week we had them in for Scranton tomorrow, and they were talking about the rally for restaurants event that they host over at Lackawanna College. And I think there's one more event. It's going to be November 24th with reservations starting at 5:30 p.m. I think there's one also, I'm sorry, that one's going to be with Electric City Bakehouse, and that's going to be a 4-course meal. And then there's another one Tuesday, November 10th, reservation starting at 5:30, and that's going to be with Posh at the Scranton Club. So all the information about the Rally for Restaurant events are on the Facebook page of 409 on Adams at Lackawanna College. And it's just a great way to be able to support our local restaurants and businesses and get a great meal out of it. So I just encourage people to check it out.
Okay, thank you. I have a few. Mary Mother of God Parish is going to have their annual roast beef dinner Sunday, November 8th, 2020, 12 noon to 4 p.m. at Sterna's Restaurant on West Market Street in North Scranton. This will be takeout only due to the pandemic. Adults can pay $10 in advance or $12 at the door. We have a caucus scheduled with Hubert, Rowland, and Grubik for Tuesday, November 10th at 5:45 p.m. to discuss the city's approach to stormwater management and the progress that has occurred with this company working with the city on the pollution reduction plan and complying with the pollution reduction requirements by the EPA. We're also going to get an update on what has been accomplished in terms of best management practices the city should implement to maintain the MS4 permit and the exploration of the feasibility and benefits of managing stormwater on a regional basis. City Hall will be closed tomorrow, Tuesday, November 3rd, for the Election Day holiday. The DPW will also be off tomorrow. Refuse and Blue Recycling will be one day behind starting on Wednesday of this week. Next week, Thursday, November 12th at 6 p.m., Council will hold the first of 2 work sessions with the Mayor and Business Administrator for the purpose of discussing the 2021 operating budget. This will be live streamed and on ECTV for the public to view. I gave kind of a breakdown of the budget timeline in the caucus. In addition to the work session that'll be held on Thursday, November 12th, there will be another one held on Thursday, November 19th with the same format. Similar to the last 2 weeks, OECD's executive director is asking that council make an announcement regarding Wednesday, October 21st, 2020. Applications will be available for the City of Scranton's Community Development Block Grant Program, Home Investment Partnership Program, and the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Project activities must be consistent with the needs and objectives identified in the City of Scranton's 5-year consolidated plan, principally for extremely low, and moderate income families. Eligible applicants must be incorporated for profit, nonprofit, or public organizations or businesses able to undertake their approved activity within the boundaries of the City of Scranton. Applications are available online at www.scrantonworks.org and must be submitted electronically no later than 5 p.m. on Friday, November 20th, 2020. Public comment on the CDBG, home, or ESG programs will be accepted at the November 10th, 2020 council meeting scheduled at 6:30 p.m. To submit comment, email lreed@scrantonpa.gov or by U.S. mail at the Scranton Municipal Building, 340 North Washington Avenue, Scranton, PA 18503. Attention City Clerk's office no later than 3 p.m. on November 10th, 2020. Public comment will also be received until November 20th, 2020 at www.scrantonworks.org or by emailing scranton311@scrantonpa.gov. Mrs. Reed.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. At this time, would someone please make a motion to accept public comment from the following individuals: Abby Walsh, Marie Schumacher, and Faye Franis?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept public comment. Mrs. Reed, would you please read the comments into the record?
Thank you. The first submission is from Abby Walsh as follows. I was recently reading through the Act 47 legislation and had a question regarding our coordinator's powers. In subchapter B, section 221, one of the coordinator's powers is as follows: to investigate the tax exempt status of any property within a distressed municipality and advise the governing body of the municipality to appeal the assessment or exempt status of property within the distressed municipality. I was not alive when we first entered distressed status, so I am unaware if this was ever done. I am wondering if our coordinator, Gerald Cross, ever used this power to look into tax exempt properties within the city and perhaps advised the city to appeal the status of any of them. If not, perhaps he could look into it now, or even if he has done it in the past, it may be worth investigating more properties in the near future so we can utilize his expertise and increase the tax base as we move to exit distress status soon. Again, that was from Abby Walsh. The next submission is from Marie Schumacher as follows. What progress, if any, has been made to expedite the 2019 audit? HR's internal audit of employees' currency on taxes and fees is scheduled to begin at the beginning of December, giving any delinquent employees about 6 weeks to get current. When will this audit complete? What, if anything, will happen to any remaining delinquent employees? On October 20th, the capital budget was taken from the table and placed in seventh order, where it was approved with some change. The revised budget was not included on the agenda as it was taken from the table. So my question is, where online is the official capital budget available? Also, I do not believe several of my capital budget questions were answered, those being an asphalt, paving, and small roller is requested, but I see no request for equipment to tar around paved patches. Without the tar, water gets between the old and new asphalt and the pothole is back. Brush, tractor, and mower, new or replacement. The roadside brush along East Mountain Road and Route 307 between 81 and Linwood Avenue was not trimmed back this year as it has been in years past. Also, land bank vacant properties need to be maintained. I see two separate line items I might add in question for leaf vacuum trucks, but no street sweepers. Is our street sweeper inventory sufficient to keep sediment stormwater out of the stormwater drains? The DPW vehicle narrative states vehicles in need of replacement and fleet additions, and then provides a list but fails to distinguish between which are replacement and which are additions. This was answered but included an Excel sheet that I do not believe has been made available to the public. The flood control section states escrow accounts will be used for funding. Please identify the available escrow accounts and the balance in each and answer why this available funding has not been used to fix the Dewey-Jackson Street issue. The Dewey-Jackson Street portion was answered, but not the escrow account. But not the escrow account identification and balances. Speaking of answers to questions, it's been a significant length of time since the questions not answered during the meeting have been answered. I'm especially interested in questions relative to that large orange sign saying no parking at River Street and Prospect Avenue. Will there be a presentation prior to receipt of the budget that exposes the planned expenditures over the next 5 years at the former Sorrente building? It appears the concerns expressed by council prior to permitting the acquisition are transitioning to reality at a time the city is financially distressed enough that the Act 47 exit had to be postponed for 18 months. Finally, if you are still reluctant to use council chambers, may I suggest you hold the public hearing on the city's 2021 budget at the Cultural Center and provide each speaker at least 10 minutes and accept any questions over the 10 minutes in writing for timely answers. The third submission is from Faye Franis, and it is as follows. Council, you say you answer questions that the residents of Scranton ask. May I say barely, if at all. You make it sound like you do, but that's not true. Example, Marie Schumacher has questions from weeks and weeks ago, perhaps months, that seriously needed answers to and were never answered. You are counting on people not remembering these questions so you can get away without answering them on purpose. I asked each council member directly last week to explain to the residents why they felt it was not good to fight for the $50 million the city took out in LST taxes illegally. Not a sound out of you, which reaffirms you are not representing the people, but only the administration. Now you will continue to tax the people right out of their homes, but you do not care. You wouldn't even fight for the people. You wanted to side with the administration. I've asked numerous times about the audit. Why do you hire people that get paid lots of money, but yet never have it done on time? Time to find another company. Year after year, we keep asking, when is the audit going to be done? You never seem to correct your mistakes. Are the taxpayers going to have to pay $300 again for their garbage fee when 25% of the people do not pay theirs? So our $300 pays for those who don't pay. The people in Scranton should know the city has a law in place for the DPW not to pick up the garbage of those homes who do not pay their garbage fee, but the city and council will not abide by their own law. In the meantime, the people who do pay will have to continue to pay for those who do not. I know I keep quoting this city law, but maybe it needs repeating. Maybe, just maybe, it might matter to you to follow laws that are in place to help the resident. God forbid that should happen. Last question. What exactly do each of you do for the $12,500 we pay you every year to help us? That concludes the citizens' participation.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Reed. I just want to, on the question, start off by reading Mr. Cross's response into the record. Ms. Walsh, who posed a question about Act 47 legislation and regarding the coordinator's powers in terms of investigating the tax exempt status of any property within a distressed municipality, is a very good question. And I want to take a second to read the response that I received this afternoon from Mr. Cross. Mr. Cross said, Ms. Walsh is correct in that the coordinator can review the status of exempt from taxation properties. The various recovery plans included initiatives for the city to review the status of these properties on a regular basis. The first review was conducted during the first recovery plan of 1992. More recently, the coordinator reviewed the status of various properties during the preparation of the 2015 recovery plan revision. Also at that time, a review was conducted as part of the Amoroso plan at that same time. The city did attempt a review of the properties as part of the 2015 recovery process, and I believe that some properties were identified at that time as subject to review. Additionally, the disposition of several properties that were part of closed churches were also identified as potential change of use that could lead to a resumption of taxable status. The majority of exempt properties are owned by local governments, city, county, and school district, and educational and medical facilities. The sale of the Scranton Sewer Authority also led to some properties being reclassified as taxable. Also, the sale of the not-for-profit hospital to a for-profit entity allowed that property to be returned to the tax rolls. We believe that a regular review of the status of properties that are owned by not-for-profit entities, but which uses are not directly related to their charitable function should occur to determine their taxable status. While the coordinator does not actually perform the analysis, the city has had initiatives and recovery plans to perform such an analysis. Please let me know if there are any follow-up questions regarding exempt from taxation properties. And I do know for a fact that that is in our recovery plan, and it has been in several recovery plans since I've been on council, that initiative to analyze the tax exempt properties. And I have asked repeatedly for that to be done, and it has not yet been done. So Mrs. Reed, if we can send correspondence to the mayor, and I'll bring this up the next time I talk with the mayor, on what their plans are, or if they do have plans to perform that analysis. Again, this is not something that council would be able to undertake. That would have to be the administration, but I do support that. I think it makes sense. As for Ms. Schumacher's comments on the capital budget that she claims was taken from the table and placed in 7th order, where it was approved with some change, the only change that was made there that I had requested was for the administration to show what funds they have already been allocated for capital programs and projects, and that they did include that. I can't remember if that was included in 3rd order. If it wasn't, I will ask that that be included in 3rd order, that updated spreadsheet. But there was no material changes made to the capital budget. Otherwise, we would have had to make an amendment to that. So we will get Ms. Schumacher that capital budget, and we'll put the revised spreadsheet in there. That was my mistake. If that wasn't included, I apologize for that. As for the DPW questions, I was under the impression that all of them were answered. There are some here that Ms. Schumacher is claiming weren't answered. We will get those to the DPW and make sure that those are answered. And let me see. Ms. Schumacher also mentioned that it's been a significant length since questions. She had questions that were not answered. I actually did talk to Mrs. Reed today, our city clerk, about that. And I asked her if she would reach out to the mayor's office and to get an update on the status of those questions. Every time a member of the public issues or asks a question of this council, I make sure, if I don't have the answer right at my disposal, and I don't know off the top of my head, and it's not something that's on the agenda, that we get those questions to the administration, and we have asked them to answer those questions. So we are not in any way, and I am not in any way, ignoring anybody's questions. I would not do that. That would be a dereliction of duty on my part. It would be ignorant as well. We have not received a response yet from the administration. So again, we did ask, or I did ask Mrs. Reed today to ask the administration for an update on when we can expect the answers to these questions, and including the no parking sign at River Street and Prospect Avenue. Ms. Schumacher also asked a question about the Sereni building. She asked for a planned expenditures over the next 5 years. We can ask for that. I wasn't for that project a few years ago. I thought that there was issues. I'm not going to rehash them all now. The problem is that, you can't put toothpaste back in the tube. We have acquired that building. There's been significant amount of money that has been put in that building. We did receive a breakdown of how the money has been spent. Most of it has been grant money, but it just wouldn't make sense at this point, since we already have acquired the building and we put money into it, to just abandon the project. So while I didn't agree with it originally, at this point, it would not make sense to abandon it and to scrap it. But I will ask what the plans are for expenditures over the next 5 years. And finally, about the use of council chambers and Ms. Schumacher's suggestion about the 2021 budget at the Cultural Center, we are not going to do that. There would be a cost to that on using the Cultural Center, I believe, a user fee or host fee or whatever. So we're not going to do that. Speakers have 5 minutes they have 5 minutes with their questions. They can put those in writing. We will take them. We will get them answered for the public when the budget comes up on our agenda. But we are going to continue to operate in Zoom due to the pandemic. And just to address finally Ms. Franis's comment, I wasn't here last week about the city's court case that they won with the LST taxes. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If the city lost that, then we would probably have gone bankrupt. So, you're really, I appreciate Ms. Franis's comments, but you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. If you are rooting for a victory there, then the city is going to be in horrible financial peril and would probably end up going bankrupt when you don't have tens of millions of dollars of revenue to run the city. So that's my answer to that. And I think that was it. And again, if there's any questions here that we got, like we do every week, we will send those to the administration and we'll ask them for an update on when we can expect the answers. Anyone else on the question? Okay, All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Councilman Schuster, do you have any motions or comments at this time?
No, nothing at this time.
Thank you. Councilman McAndrew, any motions or comments?
I don't have a motion, but I have a quick comment. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about, we passed some legislation. We got some money to change out all the city signs and replace them, which, you know, is great. A citizen approached me about it. His name's Derek Rains. He's from the Hill section, Monroe Avenue. He experienced this and something like this when he worked at Toby Hanna Depot. So his suggestion, which is a pretty good idea, you know, I don't know what we're going to do with the signs, the old signs, but maybe people might want to buy them. I mean, he said he'd love to buy the Monroe sign. I'd take a St. Anne Street sign in a minute. So maybe we pose this to the city and say, hey, you know, before you get rid of the signs, maybe we can get a couple bucks in revenue. You know, let's maybe throw it out there. It might take a couple dollars to sort them and whatever, but it might be an idea to throw it out there to see if anybody would like to buy this as a memento or, you know, a sign that's been on their street. So if Mrs. Reed, would you just send maybe that correspondence over to administration to see, you know, we can maybe incorporate that in there. If it's, you know, if it's feasible, make sense.
Of course.
All right, that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rothchild, any motions or comments?
No, I don't have any motions or comments right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Donahue, any motions or comments?
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. I have a few comments. So a few weeks ago, I had asked about questions about the intern program in the city. We did send another note to the mayor's office. They did send us a breakdown, which was in third order, of the Pennsylvania State and Local Internship Program. And I do believe that the city should be a part of this program. I think it's a good thing. But there was a note here from the HR director that there were 3 people that did not qualify for the program dollars, but they were also paid interns. So I'm still waiting for an answer as to how we paid those interns and out of what account we paid them. So we're waiting for that answer. And then there was another question as to there was multiple interns being offered permanent employment opportunities. So I had asked for a list of those interns who were hired full-time. Also in the caucus, I had asked about the incident that occurred a few weeks ago with the police department and a political parade that was that the police department kind of chaperoned through the city. I did speak to the mayor and the chief of police and was told that there was an investigation going on about that. And then I have not heard anything in about 2 weeks. So I did ask Mrs. Reed if she would send something to get an update on that. I'd like to know who authorized it and the details. I think it's important. I also asked in the caucus when the city will know how much we're going to be reimbursed from the county for the COVID-19 expenditures and what the timeline looks like on that. I believe that we submitted at this point nearly $1 million. So I'm just not clear on what the process is and when we'll find out. Also, there was a transfer that was received for the workers' comp account to unemployment insurance in the amount of $179,000. Mrs. Reed, if you can find out what the total amount that the city has spent this year in unemployment insurance, I'd like to know that prior to the next meeting. Also, we talked a little bit about it. I brought up the audit, and I did have a chance this week to speak to the business administrator about it. I think we all expressed 2 weeks ago that it is just simply unacceptable to receive the audit in December of 2020, the 2019 audit in December of 2020. Last year, we received the 2018 audit in January of 2019, which was unacceptable as well. And at that time, we had asked for regular updates on the audit. We were told that it was going to be done on time and everybody was going to have their act together. So I just want to go through really quick what Kelly Lindsay from the Kohansky Company had sent us, that they agree that the December 31st, 2019 audited financial statements being received in mid-December 2020 is not acceptable. And at the conclusion of the December 31st, 2018 audit, they discussed with council at length and agreed that a September 30th completion date was feasible and committed to adhering to this date as long as they received all of the requested financial information by July 1st, which gave the city 6 months to prepare. Then she details the reports that were sent to council and some of the information that had still not been received. In a September 3rd update, she reported that with the exception of the census data for the OPEB plan, no additional information had been received. On October 1st, they received trial balances and some work papers for the general fund, special cities fund, and OECD. A partial list of some items which are still outstanding, they attached, and additional items were going to be requested as they work through the audit. They expressed to us that they're working diligently to accommodate the city audit in their schedule after receiving the information later than they had planned, and they'll do everything possible to deliver the audit as soon as it is reasonably possible. She did offer up other items to consider. The city has a new business manager. The city was shut down for several months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The city's accounting system was offline several weeks due to a cyber attack after the original July 1st deadline to receive all this information. And OECD was closed until November 1st while the employees were under quarantine. So those were just other items to consider. But again, we went through the same thing last year, and I just find it unacceptable. It's, very disappointing to go through a budget process without last year's audited financial, the audited financial information. It's just not acceptable. So, Mrs. Reed, I have been talking with Mr. Dealey, but I think it's important for this council to get something in writing from the administration on what the plan is moving forward. It's now November 2nd, and I think we should have this audit, before final passage of the budget in December 15th. So if you could ask them what the plan of action is. Mr. Dealey told me that he's going to now meet weekly with Kohansky and Company to get further updates, but it's very disappointing. The other thing we talked about in third order was the overtime costs. So we're going to be sending something to the administration so that they can explain the reasons in detail in writing as to why we're over in the police and fire overtime budget. Also, we're going to ask for what the deal is on the DPW equipment donation from Keystone Landfill. This has been months now. We have not received anything official in writing, even though we've asked several times. I would also like to ask Mrs. Reed for an update on the conversion of the garbage bill into the real estate tax bill. Also an update on how the wind down of the NRS contract is going. I think they'll be officially done at the end of December. So I'd like to know if all the data has been transferred over, how much, if anything, the city is going to owe this company, and just a general update on where the city's at with that. Also, I haven't seen anything lately on the sale of receivables. This was a line item in the budget in terms of revenue for $1.5 million. I know the RFP was sent out. I don't know, quite frankly, if we've received anything back yet. But I'm a little concerned. We haven't seen any legislation yet, and again, that's a substantial figure in the 2020 budget. And that's all I have for this week.
5B, no business at this time. Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the council number 32, 2020. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to donate an obsolete and inactive fire engine to Johnson College for use.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
I pass that item 6A, pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution number 85, 2020, appointment of Mary Jo Sheridan, 1213 Schlager Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18504, to serve as a member of the Land Bank effective September 8, 2020. Ms. Sheridan is being appointed to fulfill the unexpired term of Mr. Wayne Beck, which will expire on February 9, 2024.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
7A.
7A.
It's 7A, Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? I was on a 5-second delay there. I apologize. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution number 86, 2020, reappointment of Anthony Santoli, 1041 Prescott Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18510, as a member of the Shade Tree Commission for an additional 5-year term effective October 29, 2020. Mr. Santoli's current term is scheduled to expire on October 29, 2020, and new term will expire on October 29, 2025.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I just want to say that many people throughout the city know Mr. Santoli. He is our city forester. He does not get paid a salary by the city. He does everything just because he loves being the city forester, and he is one of the most knowledgeable people on in that aspect that I've ever met in my entire life. So if anybody ever wants to know anything about the trees in the city or anything else related to forestry, Mr. Santoli is an encyclopedia on this type of stuff. And again, he's doing this as a volunteer. He does not get paid. He drives all over the city. On several occasions the last couple of years, I've called him because there's been a tree on someone's property or a city property that's been coming down. And he will go out at any point during the day. He just is a gentleman, very nice man. And I want to thank him on behalf of the city for doing us such a great service. The things that he's done up at Neon Park, at other parks throughout the city, is really amazing. So Mr. Santoli, thank you, not only as a city forester, but as a member of the Shade Tree Commission. Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for Adoption, Resolution number 87, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to execute and enter into an agreement with Northeastern Pennsylvania Alliance, 1151 Oak Street, Pittston, Pennsylvania, 18640, 3726, to provide the city of Scranton and OECD with underwriting services and support for their various loan and grant programs.
And I'd ask at this point if someone could please make a motion to table agenda item 7C.
I make a motion to table item C. Or 7C.
Thank you.
Second.
There's been a motion to table agenda item 7C. Councilman Donahue seconded the motion. On the question. On the question, I had noticed when I was going through the legislation that the disclosure forms were included, but they were not filled out. So Mrs. Reed got in touch with OECD Director Cipriani, and they are going to take care of that issue. You know, Councilman Schuster had questions Solicitor Hayes is going to get together with the OECD solicitor to sort that out. And hopefully we'll be able to vote on final passage next week. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of the motion to table agenda item 7C signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and agenda item 7C is tabled.
7D for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, resolution number 88, 2020, authorizing the Coordinator of Emergency Management, Al Lucas, to act as an agent for the City of Scranton for emergency and disaster relief pursuant to the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, and authorizing the city officials to execute the designation of agent and the PEMA Public Disaster Assistance Application and Agreement for financial assistance.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of 7D.
Second.
Second.
On the question? Yes, on the question. This just allows the city to enter into an agreement, to apply for and enter into an agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania through PEMA for the grant of disaster assistance funds relating to the COVID-19 pandemic. So Al Lucas is just simply being an agent of the city and giving us the ability to go for these funds. Anyone else on the question?
Just quickly, we mentioned in caucus, my concern was, was it a movement from, the union to management? Is there more money? And it was determined that it's not. So it's just like you said. So I'll be voting yes then. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E, previously tabled, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, resolution number 79, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Willis Towers Watson for consultant benefits broker services for the City of Scranton employee benefits for a period of 2 years.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, on the question. Well, first of all, I have nothing against Willis Towers Watson. I'm all in favor of moving the city forward and realize some savings with this organization. But my problem is with the process. I mean, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have a horse in this race. But what I do have are concerns about the process, the selection process. So in '94, a judge determined that the unions had to have a healthcare committee. Okay, so it's there, it's embedded in the CBA. They're supposed to be part of the selection process. They were not. The selection of this firm, like I said, nothing against them, but the selection of this firm was solely done by the mayor, the business administrator, and the new HR director. So they clearly violated the CBA. It's already being grieved. So I can't feel good about voting yes for this. And my no is not no for the company. My no is no for the process, because what's going to happen is if they win arbitration 6-8 months from now, we're going to have to do this process again. So the money that we think we're going to save real quick getting this great firm in, we're going to lose money fighting this through arbitration and then losing and then possibly losing and going through this whole process again. So I'm a no because of that. I'm not a no for the company. I'm not a no for moving forward and with a lot of realized savings, but I'm no for the simple fact that it's a principle. We talk about, past administrations didn't have best practices. They had horrible processes. So here's a process that's actually clear and defined that is in place that we're not following. So for that, I'm sorry, but I'm a no.
So as well on the question, when looking at the agreement for savings, I think there's an opportunity here to save. I'm glad that this was put out, but I did have some questions. I did speak with the business administrator, and the answers to the questions I got, I guess, echo Mr. McAndrew's response that it does seem it was part of the CBA. The healthcare committee wasn't advised, and it could be probably a simple remedy, but it hasn't been addressed at this time.
Okay, anyone else on the question? Yeah, just two things. Number one, I would think that if there was any issues in that regard, that the head of the union, whatever union, I don't know what union, whether it's the fire, police, or clerical, would have sent something to council and attached their name to it so that we could have saw that. I was told by the administration that I think the union or the attorney for one of the unions was involved, but I don't think it's neither here nor there at this point. We're voting on the contract with Willis Towers Watson for the consultant benefits broker services. Whether someone was included or not included, I just don't think that's an area that the council should get involved or would get involved in. But I never received anything officially from the union, so if they wanted to make council aware of that, they should have sent something officially in writing from their business agent or from an attorney or from someone. Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
No?
Mr. McAndrew,
No.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. See everybody next week. Thank you.
Right.
Good night, everyone.